Find another seat, sweetie. Karen Mitchell doesn't even look up from her magazine. She's sprawled across seat 2A like she owns the entire plane. Zoe Williams stands in the aisle, boarding pass in hand. Excuse me, but that's my seat. Not anymore, it isn't. Karen finally glances up, takes in Zoe's appearance, and smirks. This is first class, honey, for paying customers. Zoe stays polite but firm. I have seat 2A. Here's my boarding pass. She holds it out. Karen doesn't even look. Instead, Karen plants both hands on Zoe's chest and shoves hard. Zoe stumbles backward into the passenger behind her. Her boarding pass flutters to the floor. The cabin goes dead silent. Zoe straightens her jacket, voice steady as steel. That was unnecessary. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. What happened next would ground an entire flight. The flight attendant appears like he's been waiting in the wings. Derek Thompson, late 20s, all smiles and zero spine. Is there a problem here? Before Zoe can speak, Karen launches into performance mode. This girl is trying to take my seat. I was here first. Derek doesn't ask for boarding passes, doesn't check the seat numbers, just nods like Karen's word is gospel. Ma'am, I'm sure we can find you a lovely seat in economy. He's talking to Zoe, not even a question in his voice. Zoe bends down, retrieves her boarding pass from the floor. This is seat 2A, my seat. Well, this passenger was here when I came through earlier. The lie rolls off Derek's tongue like he's been practicing. Karen beams at him like he just solved world hunger. My company uses this airline exclusively, Zoe says quietly. I'd prefer not to cause a scene. Karen's laugh is sharp enough to cut glass. Your company? What company gives scholarships to children? Around them, other passengers settle into their seats. A few glance over, but most pretend not to notice. First-class politeness means minding your own business. Derek pulls out his tablet, tapping through screens like he's actually checking something. I can offer you a complimentary upgrade to premium economy on your next flight. I don't want an upgrade next time. I want my seat now. Zoe's voice never rises, never wavers, but something in her tone makes Derek's finger pause over his tablet. Karen senses weakness and pounces. I paid full price for this seat, not some diversity program discount. The words hit the cabin like a slap. The businessman in 1B looks up from his laptop. The woman across the aisle stops pretending to read her magazine. Derek clears his throat. Perhaps we could handle this situation properly, Karen interrupts. I fly this route monthly. I know the protocol. She turns to face Zoe directly, voice dripping with false concern. Sweetheart, I'm sure there's been some mix-up with your scholarship. These things happen. The captain's voice crackles over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Anderson. We're preparing for departure in 15 minutes. Flight attendants, please prepare for pushback. Derek glances toward the cockpit, then back at the standoff in 2A. Miss, I really need you to take another seat so we can stay on schedule. Still talking to Zoe. Still assuming she's the problem. Zoe reaches into her purse, pulls out her phone. For a moment, Derek thinks she's going to call someone. Instead, she opens her camera app. What are you doing? Karen demands. Documenting this conversation for my father's legal team. Derek's face goes pale. There's no need for legal team? Karen scoffs. What's Daddy going to do, sue the big scary airline? But her voice has lost some of its confidence. Around them, phones are starting to appear. The businessman in 1B has his camera app open. The woman across the aisle is filming over her magazine. Zoe notices but doesn't acknowledge the growing audience. She simply stands there, boarding pass in one hand, phone in the other. I'll ask one more time, she says. Please move so I can take my assigned seat. Karen crosses her arms, literally digging in. I'm not moving anywhere. Derek, call security. Derek looks like he'd rather call in a bomb threat. But Karen's staring at him with expectation, and the other passengers are watching, and he's already committed to this path. He reaches for his radio. This is Derek in first class. I need security assistance with a seating dispute. The radio crackles back. Copy that. Security en route. Zoe slides her phone back into her purse. Her face shows nothing, but something in her posture shifts, like she's settling in for a longer fight. You're making a mistake, she says quietly. Derek's hand hovers over his radio. For the first time, doubt creeps into his voice. I'm just following protocol. No, Zoe replies. You're following assumptions. The captain's voice returns. Flight attendants, we have a slight delay at the gate. Please stand by for further instructions. Karen smiles triumphantly. See? Even the captain knows this is ridiculous. But Derek is looking at Zoe differently now. Something about her calm certainty is making his stomach churn. The businessman in 1B leans forward. Excuse me, but I saw the young lady board first. She was already seated when this situation began. Karen whips around. Nobody asked you. Just stating what I observed. Other heads start nodding. The woman across the aisle speaks up. I helped her with her carry-on bag. She's been in that seat for 10 minutes. Derek realizes the narrative is shifting. The audience is turning, and security is on their way to resolve a problem that's looking less and less like a problem. His radio crackles. Derek, this is Captain Anderson. What's the nature of the delay? Derek stares at his radio like it might explode. Karen glares at him expectantly. Zoe waits with infinite patience. And somewhere in the distance, footsteps are approaching first class. 2 security officers round the corner into first class. The lead officer, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and zero patience for nonsense, surveys the scene. What seems to be the problem? Karen immediately launches into victim mode. This girl is harassing me and refusing to move from my seat. I was here first, Zoe says simply. I have my boarding pass. The security officer looks between them. Something about the contrast, Karen's dramatic gesturing versus Zoe's stillness, makes her pause. Can I see both boarding passes? Karen fumbles in her purse with suddenly nervous fingers. Zoe hands hers over immediately. Clean, crisp, seat 2A, clearly printed. The officer examines Karen's pass. Her eyebrows rise slightly. Ma'am, your seat is 8C in economy. The silence that follows could cut steel. Karen's face cycles through confusion, then realization, then desperate defiance. That's impossible. I always fly first class. There must be some mistake. The mistake, the officer says carefully, appears to be your seating location. Derek looks like he wants to disappear into the airplane's ventilation system. The passengers around them have gone dead quiet, but phones are still recording. I upgraded myself, Karen announces. There was an empty seat, so I took it. That's not how upgrades work, the security officer replies. Zoe steps closer. Her voice stays calm, but there's something new underneath it. A quiet steel that wasn't there before. I'd like to call my father. Something in the way she says it makes everyone pause. Not like a child threatening to tattle, like an executive placing a strategic call. The officer nods. That's your right. Derek finally finds his voice. Maybe we can work something out without involving... Involving what? Zoe interrupts. My family? My legal rights? My dignity? The last word hangs in the air like a challenge. James Wilson, the businessman in 1B, can't stay quiet any longer. He pulls out his phone and starts recording openly. This is James Wilson, and I'm watching discrimination happen in real time on Flight 826. His voice carries the authority of someone used to being heard. Other passengers start paying attention to his live stream. Everyone watching this needs to see how airlines treat young black passengers. Karen spins around. This isn't about race. Then what's it about? James asks, still filming. Because she had her boarding pass. She was in her seat, and you physically assaulted her. I did not. We all saw you shove her. The security officer's radio crackles. All units, be advised we have media outside the terminal. Something about an airline incident going viral. James grins at his phone. 16,000 viewers and climbing. Derek's face has gone from pale to green. This is spinning beyond his control, beyond the airline's control, beyond anyone's control. Zoe closes her eyes for a moment. When she opens them, she's somewhere else entirely. 17 years ago, her father sat in a courtroom. Young, brilliant, black, and building the technology that would revolutionize digital communication. Lawyers in expensive suits questioned whether someone his age could possibly understand complex algorithms. He never raised his voice, never lost his temper, just presented evidence until the truth became undeniable. "Let your character speak louder than your voice, baby girl," he told her later. "Power reveals itself when people stop talking and start listening." The memory fades. Zoe opens her eyes. "Officer, I don't want to press charges. I just want to get to Los Angeles to see my grandfather." Her grace under pressure makes the contrast with Karen's hysteria even starker. Karen realizes she's losing the crowd. Desperation makes her voice sharp. "Do you people know who I am? I've been flying this airline for 15 years. "Do you know who she is?" James asks from behind his camera. Karen barely glances at Zoe. "Some scholarship kid with delusions of grandeur." The words land like physical blows, but Zoe doesn't flinch. If anything, she stands a little straighter. The security officer's radio crackles again. "Unit 12, what's your status? We're getting calls from corporate." Corporate. The word makes Derek's stomach drop to his shoes. "This is Unit 12. We have a seating dispute in first class, requesting supervisor assistance." "Copy that. Supervisor en route." The captain's voice returns over the intercom, but this time there's tension underneath the professional calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Anderson. We're experiencing a delay due to a passenger services issue. We'll update you shortly." More phones come out. More passengers start filming. The woman across the aisle whispers to her seatmate, who immediately starts typing on his phone. James's live stream is gaining momentum. Chad is asking if anyone knows who this young lady is. Her composure is incredible. Derek tries one last desperate play. "Miss, I can offer you a full refund and first-class seating on the next flight." "This is the next flight," Zoe replies. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for basic respect." The words carry weight that Derek doesn't understand but can feel. Karen makes her final, fatal mistake. She stands up from the seat, gets right in Zoe's face. "Listen here, little girl. I don't care what sob story got you this ticket. This is how the real world works." She's close enough that Zoe can smell her expensive perfume, see the desperation in her eyes. "You think because people are filming you're going to get your way? You think this is some kind of movie where justice wins?" Zoe looks at her for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is barely above a whisper, but it carries to every corner of the cabin. "Ma'am, you have no idea what you've just done." The security officer steps forward. "That's enough. Ma'am, I need you to return to your assigned seat immediately." "I will not. It's not a request." Footsteps echo down the aisle. More security, more witnesses, more phones recording everything. James's viewer count hits 25,000. Comments are flooding in faster than he can read them. Derek's radio crackles one final time. "Derek, this is Captain Anderson. I'm coming down personally." What would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments. Because what happened next changed everything for everyone involved. The captain's footsteps are getting closer. Karen is still standing in someone else's seat. Zoe is still waiting with infinite patience. And somewhere in the distance, sirens are starting to wail. Captain Sarah Anderson rounds the corner into first class, and the entire energy of the cabin shifts. 52 years old, silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She carries herself like someone who's been making life-or-death decisions for 30 years. Her eyes take in the scene instantly. Karen standing defiantly in seat 2A, Zoe waiting patiently in the aisle. Derek looking like he wants to crawl under the beverage cart. Security officers flanking the situation like it's a crime scene. "What exactly is happening here?" Her voice cuts through the tension like a blade through silk. Derek stammers first. "Captain, we have a passenger refusing to move to her assigned seat." Which passenger would that be? The question hangs in the air. Derek realizes his mistake too late. James Wilson's live stream has exploded. 38,000 viewers and climbing. Comments flooding in from around the world. "Y'all, this is insane," he says to his camera. "This young lady has shown nothing but class while being treated like garbage." The businessman across the aisle nods vigorously. "I've been watching the whole thing. She's been nothing but polite." An elderly man in seat 3A speaks up. "Young lady was here when I boarded. Helped me with my bag, actually." The Greek chorus is building. Passenger after passenger starting to speak up. Captain Anderson looks at both boarding passes. The truth is immediately obvious. "Ma'am," she says to Karen, "your assigned seat is 8C. "But I always sit in first class. This is outrageous." Karen's voice is reaching a pitch that could shatter windows. But something about Captain Anderson's presence makes her histrionics seem even more ridiculous. "And you," the captain says, turning to Zoe. "What's your name?" "Zoe Williams." "And what brings you to Los Angeles today, Miss Williams?" "Visiting my grandfather. He's in the hospital." The simple humanity of the answer lands differently than anything else that's been said. Captain Anderson's expression softens almost imperceptibly. James's camera catches it all. "Chat, are you seeing this? This young woman is trying to get to her sick grandfather, and this is how she's being treated." The comments section is on fire. Viewers sharing the stream across social media platforms. Hashtag Flight 826 starting to trend. An older woman in seat 4B stands up. "Captain, I watched that blonde woman shove this child. It was assault." "She did not," Karen starts. "Ma'am." Captain Anderson's voice cuts through Karen's protest like a laser. "Please return to your assigned seat immediately." "I will not be treated this way. Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are. A passenger in the wrong seat causing a disturbance." Derek tries to salvage his position. "Captain, I was trying to resolve this diplomatically. By asking the passenger with the correct boarding pass to move?" Derek's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air. Zoe steps forward. Her voice is calm, but there's something new in it. A quiet authority that makes everyone listen. "Captain Anderson, I appreciate your intervention, but I want everyone here to understand something." She looks around the cabin, making eye contact with the cameras, with the passengers, with the security officers. "This isn't about a seat. This is about the assumption that I don't belong here. That someone who looks like me couldn't possibly afford first class, couldn't possibly deserve respect." The cabin has gone completely silent except for the hum of the engines. Some people mistake silence for weakness. They're about to learn the difference. The quote lands like a thunderbolt. James's viewers explode to 50,000. Screenshots of Zoe's words are already being shared across social media. Captain Anderson nods slowly. "Miss Williams, you're absolutely right. And I apologize on behalf of this airline for how you've been treated." Karen realizes the tide has completely turned against her. Desperation makes her voice shrill. "This is ridiculous. I've been a loyal customer for 15 years. I know the airline president personally." "Do you?" Captain Anderson asks mildly. "Well, we've met at events." "I see. And what's his name?" Karen's mouth works soundlessly. She has no idea. James grins at his camera. Chad is roasting her alive right now. 62,000 viewers and everyone is Team Zoe. A younger passenger in seat 5A holds up her phone. "I'm streaming this too. 12,000 followers watching." Another passenger. "Posted to TikTok. Already got 5,000 views?" The social media wildfire is spreading in real time. Multiple angles, multiple platforms, all showing the same story. A composed young woman being harassed for existing while black in first class. Captain Anderson keys her radio. Ground control, this is Captain Anderson, Flight 826 requesting indefinite gate hold. Copy that, Captain. Indefinite gate hold approved. Karen's face cycles through confusion, then realization, then panic. You can't delay an entire flight because of this. Ma'am, I can, and I will. This aircraft doesn't move until this situation is resolved properly. Derek's radio crackles. Derek, this is operations. We're getting calls from corporate communications. Something about social media? Derek looks at James's phone screen. 75,000 viewers. The number climbing by the second. Oh, God, he whispers. Zoe's grandfather always told her that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and choosing to do what's right anyway. Standing in this airplane aisle, surrounded by cameras and chaos, she feels the weight of every young black person who's ever been told they don't belong somewhere. She thinks about her father, building a tech empire from nothing while people questioned his credentials at every turn. She thinks about her mother, the brilliant surgeon who still gets mistaken for a nurse in her own hospital. She thinks about her grandfather, who lived through Jim Crow and fought for the right to be treated with basic human dignity. Captain, Zoe says, I want to make a phone call. Something in her tone makes everyone go quiet. Of course. Who would you like to call? Zoe pulls out her phone, scrolls through her contacts. She finds the number she's looking for. My father's office. She hits dial. The phone rings once. Williams Digital Corporation CEO's office. This is Patricia. Zoe's voice is crystal clear. Every word carries across the silent cabin. Patricia, this is Zoe. I need to speak with my father immediately. Karen's face drains of color. Derek looks like he's about to faint. James's live stream hits 90,000 viewers. The comments are moving too fast to read. Miss Williams, Patricia's voice comes through the speaker. He's in the board meeting. Is everything all right? There's been an incident with the airline. He needs to know about it. I'll get him right away. The hold music starts playing, classical, peaceful, completely at odds with the chaos in the cabin. Captain Anderson looks at Zoe with new understanding dawning in her eyes. Miss Williams, what company did you say your father runs? Zoe meets her gaze steadily. I didn't say, but she's about to. The hold music cuts off. Zoe, baby, what's wrong? The voice coming through the phone is warm, concerned, and unmistakably authoritative. Every person in first class can hear it clearly. Hi, Daddy. I'm on Flight 826 to Los Angeles, and there's been a situation. Zoe's voice is steady, but there's something in the way she says Daddy that makes Captain Anderson's eyes widen. What kind of situation? A passenger assaulted me and took my seat. The flight attendant sided with her without checking facts. I'm being treated like I don't belong in first class. The silence on the other end of the phone is deafening. When her father speaks again, his voice has changed. It's the voice that's testified before Congress, negotiated billion-dollar mergers, and built one of the largest tech companies in America from nothing. Put me on speaker. Zoe hits the speaker button. You're on speaker, Daddy. This is Marcus Williams, CEO of Williams Digital Corporation. To whom am I speaking? Captain Anderson steps forward, her face pale. Sir, this is Captain Sarah Anderson. Captain Anderson, are you aware that Williams Digital Corp has a $50 million exclusive contract with your airline? The words hit the cabin like a physical force. Derek's legs actually buckle. Karen's mouth falls open. James's live stream explodes past 100,000 viewers. Comments are flying faster than lightning. Mr. Williams, Captain Anderson says carefully, I was not aware of your daughter's identity. I'm currently investigating the situation. Let me help you investigate. My daughter is Zoe Williams. She's 16 years old. She's flying alone to visit her grandfather in the hospital. She's in seat 2A, first class, which I personally purchased for her comfort and safety. Every word is a hammer blow to Derek's career prospects. She called me because a passenger physically assaulted her and a flight attendant refused to help her. Is that accurate? Captain Anderson looks around the cabin, at Derek, who's sweating through his uniform, at Karen, who looks like she's seen a ghost, at the dozen passengers with their phones out recording everything. That appears to be accurate, sir. Then let me be very clear about what happens next. Marcus Williams's voice carries the authority of someone who's used to being listened to when he speaks. The employee who failed to protect my daughter will be terminated immediately. The passenger who assaulted her will be banned from your airline permanently. And unless this situation is resolved to my satisfaction in the next 5 minutes, Williams Digital Corp will be reviewing all of our corporate travel contracts. Derek makes a small whimpering sound. Karen finds her voice, but it comes out as a croak. I didn't know. You didn't know what? Marcus Williams's voice cuts through her excuse like a blade. That my daughter is a human being deserving of basic respect? That assaulting a child is wrong? That first-class passengers belong in first class? Zoe watches the dominoes falling around her. Part of her feels vindicated. Part of her feels sad that it took her father's name to get basic human decency. But mostly, she feels powerful. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. But consequences? Those come swiftly. The words land in the cabin like a mic drop. James's viewers go absolutely wild. Screenshots of the quote are already spreading across social media. Captain Anderson keys her radio. Operations, this is Captain Anderson. I need security to remove passenger Mitchell from the aircraft immediately. Lifetime ban, effective now. Copy that, Captain. She turns to Derek. Mr. Thompson, you're suspended pending termination. Security will escort you off the aircraft. Derek's face crumbles. Captain, please, I have a family. You should have thought about that before you chose to discriminate against a passenger. The security officers move toward Karen, who's finally understanding the magnitude of her mistake. Wait! This is all a misunderstanding. I didn't know she was important. Zoe looks at her with something approaching pity. That's exactly the problem. You didn't think I was important enough to treat with basic human dignity. More security officers arrive. Karen is escorted out of seat 2A, down the aisle, off the aircraft. Her protests echo through the jet bridge until the door closes behind her. Derek follows, his head hanging in shame. 15 years of airline experience, gone in 15 minutes. The cabin erupts in applause. Not polite first-class clapping, but genuine appreciation for justice being served. James's live stream hits 150,000 viewers. Hashtag Flight 826 is trending nationwide. Zoe Williams is starting to trend worldwide. Chat, I have never seen anything like this in my life, James says to his camera. This young woman just changed the entire game. Captain Anderson approaches Zoe, her expression respectful. Miss Williams, on behalf of this airline, I want to apologize for how you were treated. This is not who we are, and it's not who we want to be. Thank you, Captain. I'd also like to offer you and your family complimentary first-class travel for a year and a full investigation into our training protocols. Marcus Williams' voice comes through the phone speaker. Captain Anderson, I appreciate your professionalism, but monetary compensation isn't what matters here. What can we do to make this right? You can use this as a teachable moment. You can train your staff better. You can create systems that protect passengers from discrimination. You can make sure this never happens to another child. Zoe feels a surge of pride in her father's words. This isn't about revenge, it's about change. The gate agent, Lisa Brown, appears at the aircraft door. She's been watching the live streams from the terminal, and her face shows a mixture of admiration and determination. Captain Anderson, I'd like to volunteer for any diversity training programs the airline implements. What I witnessed today was unacceptable. Captain Anderson nods approvingly. Ms. Brown, I think that's an excellent start. Zoe finally settles into her seat. Her seat. 2A, the seat she paid for, deserved, and never should have had to fight for. James ends his live stream with a final thought. If you saw something here that moved you, share this story. Because change doesn't happen when good people stay silent. The aircraft door closes. The engines spool up. Marcus Williams' voice comes through the phone one last time. Zoe, baby, I'm proud of you. You handled this with more grace than most adults could manage. Thanks, Daddy. Grandpa always said to let my character speak louder than my voice. He raised us both well. Give him my love. I will. The phone call ends. Flight 826 pushes back from the gate. But the story is just beginning. By the time Flight 826 reaches cruising altitude, the story has exploded across every social media platform on Earth. James Wilson's live stream has been viewed over 1 million times. TikTok videos are spreading like wildfire. Twitter is on fire with hashtag Zoe Williams and hashtag Flight 826 Justice. CNN picks up the story first. Teens' airline discrimination goes viral after father revealed as tech billionaire. Fox News follows 20 minutes later. Airline employee fired after discriminating against passenger. MSNBC goes deeper. How one teen's dignity sparked a national conversation about bias. The airline's stock price drops 3% in after-hours trading. Their corporate communications team is in full crisis mode. But Zoe doesn't know any of this yet. She's 37,000 feet above Colorado, finally reading the book she brought for the flight. Captain Anderson's voice comes over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to address what happened during boarding today. This airline has zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind. We failed one of our passengers today and we will do better. Spontaneous applause fills the cabin, not just first class, the entire aircraft. James leans over from his seat. Miss Williams, you know you just changed everything, right? Zoe looks up from her book. I just wanted to sit in my seat. You did a lot more than that. 3 hours later, as Flight 826 begins its descent into Los Angeles, Zoe's phone starts buzzing with notifications. She's been offline during the flight, but the world hasn't stopped moving. Text from her best friend. Girl, you're all over the internet. You're famous. A text from her mother. So proud of you, baby. Handle the media attention with grace. Text from her grandfather. Saw the news. You made this old man proud. Can't wait to hug you. Missed calls from reporters, producers, talent agents. Her father's communications team has been fielding thousands of interview requests. But the text that matters most is from her father. You showed the world who you are today. Character under pressure. That's leadership. Zoe closes her eyes and thinks about the moment everything changed. Not when her father's identity was revealed, but earlier. When she chose to stay calm while Karen screamed. When she chose dignity over anger. When she chose to document rather than retaliate. She thinks about her grandfather, growing up in Alabama in the 1950s, facing discrimination that was legal, systematic, violent. How many times did he have to choose between his safety and his dignity? He chose dignity. Every time. When she was 12, he told her a story about riding the bus to work in Montgomery, how a white passenger demanded his seat, even though he was in the colored section, how the driver backed up the passenger, how her grandfather got off the bus and walked 8 miles to work rather than give up what little he had every right to claim. But Grandpa, she'd asked, didn't that make you angry? Baby girl, anger is just love with nowhere to go. I was angry because I loved myself enough to know I deserved better. And I loved my future grandchildren enough to fight for a world where they'd never have to make that choice. He was wrong about one thing. She did have to make that choice today. But she made it in a first-class airplane seat with cameras rolling, with the power to create real change. That's progress. The plane touches down at LAX to a media circus. News vans line the tarmac. Reporters wait at every gate. But Zoe doesn't see any of it. She walks off the plane like any other passenger, carries her own bag, thanks the new flight crew for their service. Captain Anderson finds her at baggage claim. "Miss Williams, I wanted you to know that the airline is implementing immediate changes. Mandatory bias training for all customer service staff, new protocols for handling discrimination complaints, and a zero-tolerance policy with real consequences." That's good to hear. There's something else. We'd like to offer Ms. Brown, the gate agent who supported you, a promotion to our new diversity and inclusion department. Zoe smiles. She earned it. You changed things today. Not just for our airline, for the industry. Outside baggage claim, Zoe's grandfather is waiting in his wheelchair. 87 years old, battle-scarred from decades of fighting for dignity, but his eyes still bright with pride. She runs to him, and for a moment, she's not a viral sensation or a civil rights symbol. She's just a granddaughter hugging her grandfather. "You did good, baby girl. I learned from the best." On the drive to the hospital, her grandfather tells her about the calls he's been getting. The NAACP wants to give her an award. Harvard wants to fast-track her admission. Netflix wants to option her story. "What do you want to do?" he asks. Zoe thinks about it. "I want to finish high school. I want to visit you more often. I want to help Daddy build technology that makes the world more fair." "And the fame?" "Fame is just noise, Grandpa. Character is what matters." He reaches over and squeezes her hand. "Your great-grandmother would be so proud. She used to say that every generation has to fight the same battles, but with different weapons." What were her weapons? Dignity, grace, refusing to be anything less than human. Zoe nods. "Same weapons I use today." That evening, Williams Digital Corp releases a statement. "Today, our daughter experienced discrimination that no child should face, but she responded with the grace and dignity that define her character. We're proud of her, and we're committed to working with the airline industry to ensure this never happens again." To the young people watching this story, you belong wherever you have the right to be. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And when you face injustice, remember that your response defines you more than their actions define them. Character under pressure. That's how we change the world. The statement is shared 1,000,000 times in the first hour. But Zoe isn't reading social media. She's sitting in a hospital room holding her grandfather's hand, listening to him tell stories about the old days. Stories about choosing dignity over anger. Stories about fighting for a world where his granddaughter could sit anywhere she belonged. Stories about progress, measured not in miles, but in moments like today. Outside the hospital window, news trucks are setting up for the morning shows. Tomorrow, Zoe Williams will be the most famous teenager in America. Tonight, she's just a granddaughter, grateful for the man who taught her that respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn by refusing to accept anything less. The reforms start immediately. Within a week, every major airline announces new anti-discrimination training. Customer service protocols are rewritten. A national conversation about bias in travel begins. Change doesn't happen in boardrooms. It happens when someone says enough. And sometimes it happens when a 16-year-old girl refuses to give up her seat. 6 months later, Lisa Brown adjusts her new nameplate, Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Her office overlooks the same terminal where everything changed, but the view looks different now. The airline's discrimination complaints have dropped by 40%. Customer satisfaction scores are at an all-time high. The stock price not only recovered but reached record levels. Change, it turns out, is good for business. Derek Thompson bags groceries at a supermarket in Phoenix. The viral video follows him everywhere. Job interviews end the moment employers Google his name. He's learned, too late, that some mistakes define you forever. At night, he thinks about that moment when he could have checked the boarding passes first. Could have listened instead of assuming. Could have chosen fairness over convenience. He thinks about it a lot. Karen Mitchell's life imploded completely. The video cost her a job, a marriage, and most of her friends. Social media exile is permanent and merciless. She's become a case study in business schools about the cost of unchecked privilege. She moved to a small town where nobody recognizes her, works at a call center under a different name. Sometimes, late at night, she wonders what would have happened if she'd just said, "I'm sorry," and moved to her assigned seat. But mostly, she tries not to think about it at all. Captain Sarah Anderson received the airline's highest honor for leadership under pressure. But the award that matters most sits on her desk at home. A photo of her daughter, who died in a hate crime 5 years ago. "Justice for Jessica" is written on the frame. Next to it, a new photo. Zoe Williams shaking hands with the airline CEO at the press conference announcing the new anti-bias initiatives. Some fights we don't get to finish. Others we pass to the next generation. James Wilson's follower count exploded to 2 million after Flight 826, but he changed his content strategy completely. Now he focuses exclusively on social justice stories, using his platform to amplify voices that need to be heard. The advertising revenue pays well, but that's not why he does it anymore. Some moments change your perspective forever. He still gets messages from people who watch that live stream. Teachers who show it in their classrooms. Parents who use it to talk to their children about standing up for what's right. Never underestimate the power of witnessing, he tells his audience. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is make sure the world sees what's happening. Zoe Williams finished her junior year with a 4.0 GPA. Harvard sent a recruitment letter. So did Stanford, MIT, and Yale. She's considering them all, but she's not in a hurry to decide. She speaks at diversity conferences now, but only on weekends. School comes first. Her father insists on it. Education is the foundation, he tells her. Everything else is just building on top of it. The Williams Digital Corp Scholarship Program has funded college educations for 200 underprivileged students. The company's diversity initiatives have become a model for the tech industry. But Zoe's favorite project is the mentorship program she started at her high school. Every month, she meets with young students who've faced discrimination, helping them navigate the world with dignity and strength. Your response to injustice defines you more than the injustice itself, she tells them. Stay calm, stay strong, stay true to who you are. Her grandfather recovered fully from his illness. At 87, he's more proud than ever of the young woman his granddaughter has become. You know what the difference is between your generation and mine? He asked her last week. What's that, Grandpa? When I faced discrimination, I had to choose between fighting back and surviving. You figured out how to do both. Zoe doesn't feel like a hero. She just feels like someone who refused to accept unacceptable behavior. But she's learned that sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. The airline industry looks different now. Training programs focus on unconscious bias. Complaint procedures are transparent and swift. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance. Flight 826 is retired from service. The aircraft now sits in the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, part of an exhibit on civil rights in the digital age. Seat 2A has a small plaque, reserved for all who refuse to accept anything less than dignity. Visitors from around the world come to see it, to remember that progress happens one moment, one choice, one person at a time. Last month, Zoe visited the exhibit with her grandfather. They sat in the recreated cabin, in the seats where everything changed. Do you ever regret how it all happened? He asked. Zoe thought about it. About the fame she never wanted. About the responsibility she never asked for. About the young people who message her for advice about facing their own battles. Power reveals character, Grandpa. Yours revealed strength. He smiled. The same smile that carried him through Montgomery in the 1950s. The same smile that taught her father to build bridges instead of walls. The same smile that gave her the courage to stay seated when staying seated required everything she had. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that matter. Because justice isn't just about the law, it's about how we treat each other every single day. The world changes when good people refuse to stay silent. And sometimes, it changes when a 16-year-old girl simply refuses to give up what's rightfully hers. Character under pressure. That's how we build a better tomorrow.